San Diego County could be back in the red tier by next week. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Carlo Cicchetto.
I'm Marcella Lee in for Barbara Lee Edwards. It is an earlier than expected move out of the most restrictive purple tier.
News 8's Brandon Lewis has more on the change that helped make it possible.
Carlo and Marcella, certainly today's announcement means we could reach the red tier a lot sooner than what we originally anticipated under the old metric that was used, but we still have some hurdles ahead. So today we want to explain a little bit about what's on the road ahead. San Diego's case rate fate rests on two metrics that are both looking very good. The first is called the vaccine equity metric. Once the state gives out 2 million vaccines in hard-hit areas, then the maximum case rate needed to move into red tier is now at 10. San Diego was an 8.8 this week, and the governor says we're just about there as a state.
We're at 1.9 million today. On Friday, we will pass that goal, which I'm very, very pleased to say.
So if the numbers hold, then we could move next week. The other metric is the health equity metric. This is also about helping hard-hit areas. If a county does so much testing and has such a low percentage of positive cases, then it would qualify for the orange tier, then the county would move to the red tier. Basically, if you test a lot and keep cases low, which we've done, the red tier is on the horizon.
We have 1 week now in the bank in red. We expect that we will be under 10 next week, which means there's a high probability and likelihood that next Wednesday we will descend into that tier.
That means next week we could see a return or expansion of more indoor services, and we could even start talking about the orange tier in a month, something the county has never achieved. That also means the state will start looking at what the tier system looks like in the months ahead.
As we start to reopen, as we get to 10, 15, 20 million vaccinations, get closer and closer herd immunity, then we will start to make it clear that these tiers were temporary. They're not permanent. And there's something beyond orange and yellow, and that green tier will present itself.
Of course, a lot of this is dependent on our supply of vaccines. Governor Newsom says we're expecting a little less than 6 million doses over the next 3 weeks. Many of them are not Johnson & Johnson's highly anticipated one-shot vaccine. The governor is saying there were simply a lot of supply issues, but he expects that will start to turn around in April. Carlo and Marcella?
Let's hope so. A lot of people still needing that second vaccine dose. Thank you, Brandon. Our case count continues to remain low as we inch closer to that red tier. Today, the county reported 349 new coronavirus cases. That's about 3% positive out of more than 13,000 tests. No new hospitalizations or ICU patients were reported, but 8 deaths were added today. Right now, nearly 25% of eligible San Diegans have received their first dose of the COVID-19 vaccine, and almost 14% are fully vaccinated. We have spent the last hour trying to figure out what that shaking was that hit the county just before 5 p.m. Many of us felt it working from our homes in Santee, University Heights, Scripps Ranch, Rancho Bernardo, and Encinitas. Maybe you felt it too. Well, it appears this was not an earthquake. And we do not yet have any confirmation of noises coming from Miramar, so we will continue to investigate. If you felt it, you know there was something happening. We'll try to get to the bottom of it. Stay tuned.
Well, it's been pretty much of a shakeup when it comes to our forecast over the past couple of hours. We've been dealing with a storm system that is really a slow mover. I'm Chief Meteorologist Carlene Chavis. We have a few isolated showers out there right now, but the bulk of that moisture was earlier today. And I want to call her a junior meteorologist. Thank you so much, Marcella, sending in this picture. That's right, girl. This was taken by Marcella earlier today as we had some hail that was moving through.
You gotta hear it. You have to hear it.
Okay, hold on. Let's be quiet.
Can we hear it?
Oh.
We don't hear that often.
We also had rain video that was also taken earlier today. So we started off on the soggy side. As you can take a look at our radar right now, we're not seeing too much activity, but we're not done just yet. So the last 6 hours, we have seen some showers as well as some mountain snow. And as I mentioned, this is a slow mover. So I thought the low was going to be over us at this point, but because it's not, we are still looking at a good chance for showers later tonight. So we'll go ahead and take a look at your forecast coming up. Carlo?
Thanks, Carlene. Up in Orange County, storm-triggered mudslides forced several people from their homes today. This was in Silverado Canyon this morning. Roads, you can see, were covered in mud. Some cars were actually swept away. Fire officials say they rescued 4 people who were trapped in their homes. The debris comes from the area where the 13,000-acre Silverado fire burned last fall. As many schools are still trying to figure out how to reopen for in-person learning, one local private school campus is sharing how they were able to safely open up full-time starting last September. News 8's Shannon Handy took a tour of Jolla Country Day and has more in this Learning Curve report.
Normally, there's about 1,000 kids on campus every single day, but because they spend so much time outside, they're home due to the rain. This setup is just one of the ways Jolla Country Day has been able to successfully stay open since the fall.
Everything we've done is to take care of the well-being of our faculty, our staff, our students, and our families.
Gary Cron is head of school at Jolla Country Day, a private pre-K through high school campus with 1,100 students. Since indoor classes reopened full-time in September, less than 1% of students here have tested positive for COVID. Those cases were believed to have originated off-site with no outbreaks reported at the school.
As of today, we've had no child transmit the disease on this campus.
Cron credits a number of factors. For starters, students are closely monitored via daily temperature checks, COVID tests every 3 weeks, and contact tracing through an app.
Would you like to share your writing? And this is my email. Come on, Miss Field. I hope you had a great night.
For every 45 minutes of indoor instruction, students spend at least 15 minutes outside. But what's really made a difference, says Cron, is monitoring the air around them. All classrooms are equipped with windows, fans, as well as hospital-grade carbon dioxide monitors.
I can look on my phone right now and see the CO2 content in any classroom. That doesn't tell me there's a virus in it. It just means the air circulation's at a level where we can't transmit the disease from one child to another.
Cron acknowledges doing all this takes a lot of resources, which other schools may not have.
We anticipate that this year and next year, to keep this campus as safe as we think is necessary for our students, it's going to be close to $3 million.
Still, he says there are less expensive alternatives like non-hospital grade CO2 monitors, which still offer protection, and homemade devices like this one that costs about $35.
We've also rigged up, and I mean rigged up, a box fan with a MERV 13 filter literally taped to it.
Public school districts have been allocated hundreds of millions of state dollars to help pay for similar safety upgrades. Smaller ones like Cajon Valley Union have reopened in-person learning for all students, but the county's largest district, San Diego Unified, has not. Reasons include having to deal with more students, multiple campuses, and a large teachers union.
The thing that's really been the magic for this school is our faculty came back to school. They trusted our protocols.
Shannon Handy, News 8.
Thanks, Shannon. Not only are more and more schools reopening, many businesses are as well. And for some employees, that is causing a lot of anxiety. Tonight, News 8's Steve Price tells us about what a local psychiatrist has to say about ways to make the transition back to work a little easier.
With the vaccine rollout well underway and coronavirus numbers coming down, many people are hopeful that life will start returning to normal. But what if you're not quite ready yet to immediately return to your old life, especially when it comes to heading back to work?
I think you have to figure out, does the anxiety make sense or is it overboard?
Dr. Michael Larden says the pandemic sparked anxiety and depression in levels that his psychiatry practice hasn't seen since 9/11.
The uncertainty, the fear, the economic toll was just really too much. And we saw people that normally, pretty level-headed, really having a bad time.
Many people admit they're concerned about catching COVID on the job, especially if being asked to return to work before being fully vaccinated. Dr. Larden says having some anxiety about returning to work is normal, but you have to keep things in perspective.
We can never eradicate all the risks of our behavior in life. I mean, when we go on the 805 freeway, there's an inherent risk in driving on a big freeway.
From a social aspect, the pandemic has been really hard on a lot of people. So for many, returning to work can be a big step in the right direction, especially when it comes to improving mental health.
It is important to re-engage, especially in our social life, in our work life is a big part of our social life.
But you also have to feel comfortable doing it. So head back to work, taking precautions to make you feel better, like wearing a mask, and talk to your boss about moving your workspace to a more open, spaced out area.
You slowly graduate your risk and you become increasingly comfortable, and then you can kind of, up the ante and go to the next place. If we do it all at once, we call that flooding, and that's maybe too much for some people.
Dr. Lardon has seen a few silver linings to the pandemic's dark clouds, with one of the biggest being people talking more about the importance of mental health, helping to eliminate the stigma surrounding seeking professional assistance. He hopes that will continue long after the pandemic is over. Steve Price, News 8.
A lot of changes still ahead.
Yeah, hopefully we carry some of the positive lessons with us. A La Mesa business owner who got into a fight with several members of the local media was sentenced today to 2 years of probation.
Peter Karzis pleaded guilty to felony vandalism and violating a domestic violence restraining order last month. Last January, news crews were trying to interview him about an alleged recording of him groping a woman outside of his store. Video shows him cursing at reporters and even shoving a news photojournalist, causing irreparable damage to a camera. He may still be required to pay for that damage. That was not discussed in court today.
A not guilty plea today from a man accused of shooting at Harbor police officers outside the convention center last week. Daniel Quiroz is facing attempted murder and assault charges. Last Monday, he was initially pulled over for a traffic violation. When asked to step out of his car for a sobriety test, officers say that he did and then pulled a gun out, prompting an officer to open fire. Following a brief shootout, Quiroz surrendered. No one was hurt. He's being held right now without bail.
Today, San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria announced a new approach to helping unsheltered San Diegans.
The coordinated street outreach program will use trained social workers and peer specialists. They will work to build relationships with people who are homeless and provide them with resources that are tailored to their specific needs.
Maybe for that person that day, it can be an opportunity to reconnect with family, enroll in medical care, or enter drug treatment programs. It's an encounter that goes from being maybe helpful to one that could change a life.
The data-driven effort will also build on the Housing First strategy and help get individuals on the path to permanent housing.